So there is absolutely no sun inside today, and it's raining actually right now. It's not heavily raining, but it's raining. Okay, and there is a lot of fog, if you can see in my background. Okay, so this is the day for today, and what should we talk about today? Today we'll talk about how do you maintain your distance from the distraction that the phone has become, or in other words, or the addiction that the phone has become. How do we find our way around it? Okay, so what you can do is always keep your phone beyond your arm's length range. Okay, so your phone should not be very accessible to you. Keep it away. It would help if you have a fixed place at your house where you keep your phone always. Okay, it's just at the same place every time. Okay, and if you want to use the phone, you just have to go to that place, use your phone, and then keep it back there. Okay, so when you do that, you will not use your phone for wasting time, and you will not use phone for scrolling random stuff. You will only use your phone when you actually have some proper need for using phone. Okay, so this will help you not let phone be a distraction and not let it be an addiction. Okay, because it's not accessible to you. It becomes an addiction when it's very accessible to you. The phone is always with you in your pocket or just at your arm's length. So when you don't have anything to do, you just pick up your phone. That's your default way. So don't let that become your default. Don't let using phone become your default. It's going to harm you. It doesn't help you. Okay, reading a book can be a default. Keep a book in your arm's length so that whenever you feel that you don't have anything to do, you can pick up your book and read. Okay, or maybe a Kindle. So these things will help. Don't keep your phone in your arm's length. That definitely doesn't help. Okay, I'll see you later. So the craziest thing just happened. What happened is that I was on a call with a prospective client for one of our projects. Okay, and then she screen shared to show me their podcast on which they want us to work. Okay, so she started her YouTube and on that I saw my video, the vlog that I make, like this one, as a suggestion out there on the Discover page, and I was like, "Oh man, that's crazy." So, that's pretty crazy to see myself on someone else's YouTube and the screen share. So I didn't ever expect that, but that's something that made me happy. That potentially made my day. So I'm really happy about that. I'm gonna be that will definitely fuel my day going ahead. So yeah, incredible thing. I hope my YouTube shows on all everyone's Discover, and they get to see these vlogs, however bad they are. Anyway, I'll see you later. Bye.
Hey, so today we'll read this blog, How to Ask Useful Questions by John Kaufman. Asking useful questions is a skill and it requires practice. Inexperienced or naive questions sound like this: Hello, insert life story, what should I do? Or this: I'm thinking about this, what do you think? Questions like these make a few critical mistakes. They don't include the context necessary for the recipient to answer the question. They don't respect the recipient's time, energy, and attention, or competing demands. They implicitly transfer responsibility for the end result from the questioner to the recipient. As a result, questions like these go unanswered due to friction. Answering them would take too much effort, so the recipient doesn't bother. If you want useful answers, learn to ask better questions. In most cases, you'll need to tailor the form of the question to the type of information you're seeking. Asking for information. I'm interested in more information about A, and I found you via B. Are you the best person to ask about this? Keys to information seeking questions. Be specific about the information you're looking to obtain. Give context by referencing why you're contacting them and how you found their contact information. Make it easy for the recipient to refer you to the best resource as quickly as possible, which will save you both time. Asking for clarification. Based on our conversation with A about A, it sounds like B is the case. Is that correct? Keys to clarification. Questions include a short summary of the subject for context. It sounds like leaves room for clarification without being confrontational. Is that correct? Or a close variant is clear, concise, direct, and polite. Asking for help. I'm trying to A and I'm having trouble. So far, I've tried B with result C and D with result E. Now I'm stuck. Any guidance? Keys for asking for assistance. Be clear and precise about what you're trying to do. Give context by including what you have tried so far, which makes it clear that you are doing your own work and not asking the recipient to solve your problems for you. Any guidance or what should I try next sets the recipient as expert and doesn't transfer responsibility for the problem. Asking for agreement. Based on our previous conversation about X, we decided Y is the best solution. The next step is Z. Agreed? If so, I'll get started right away. Keys for asking for agreement. Use this question to get important decisions or agreements in writing. This question is particularly useful in confirming business agreements. Spell out the decision in as much detail as possible. Agreed leaves no room for a recipient to voice disagreement without it equivocating in your description of the original decision conversation. I'll get started right away as useful urgency and makes it clear that clarifications or changes need to be made right away. Asking for advice. I'm working on A, my priorities are B, C, and D. I'm considering E, but I'm not sure if that's the best option. If you have a moment, I would appreciate your thoughts. If not, no worries, thanks. Keys for asking for advice. Be clear and precise about what you're trying to achieve. Be clear about your priorities and include any known trade offs. The recipient can't read your mind or set your priorities for you. Make it clear you're asking for advice or perspective and not for the recipient to decide for you. Give the recipient an easy way out. You're asking for a favor, so be polite. Are you asking useful questions? What type of question currently have most trouble asking? How can you practice asking it in a useful way? Okay, so that was the blog, a very useful blog on how to ask questions, because most people do the mistake of asking questions that are not easy to answer. They are genuinely asking a question, they want to know the answer to that, but they are not making it easy for the person they are questioning to answer their question. So you have to be very precise and very polite and make sure that you make the best use of their time, and it's easy for them to answer. It's not very difficult. Okay, so and all of these examples that he cited, that how to ask these questions, they are very short. These can be used for cold emails as well. So when you're cold emailing someone, you need to be very precise, very short in your ask, and you also have to show that you've done the work that required. You've done your homework, and then you're reaching out. So these are amazing, very short snippets, just one para each, that they all can be read in less than a minute and can be also answered in less than a minute. Doesn't take a lot of time or effort. So this is how you ask the right kind of questions that actually get answered. You can find this blog on joshkaufman.net slash how to ask useful questions. Okay, bye. So that was the vlog for today. Bye bye. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.